So let's have a listen to this on its own. Right, so this one again would start with Pro Q3 maybe, or Logic's EQ, just like this. I mean, you don't have to have a drastic cut like that. Like say you could like roll it off a bit like that. That'd be better probably for this one. And what I'm listening for is any sort of tones that might come out that I'm just like, oh, actually that's going to affect. Let me have a listen to it with a kick. So what I want to do is I feel like you can see from the waveform it's well processed because I processed it before in my own Mixdown, so I know that that's quite level. And I mean sometimes you can get it and it really it moves so much that the compression or anything it takes a lot of work. But in this one I'm just going to put another compressor and do a similar thing just to make sure. But this time I'm going to make sure that it's a little bit faster on the release because I know I don't want it to I want it to be quite snappy with it against the kick. So if I bring this makeup down and then there we go. Just so what this will do is then for the next stage of the processing, it'll just make sure that everything it's like a row of trees, you know. And if you've got one or two trees that are higher, it's like they're not going to be flat, are they? So like chopping all them treetops off by clipping it, like cutting a hedge, slice that off, and then I know that it's never going to be louder than that. So I'll play it with and without, see the difference. It's a lot more laminated. There we go. So, and then what I would do on that one now is by using, like, say, the likes of span, I would look for the stereo image on the low end. And I can tell that it's all, because it was a sub in the sound, it's all very, very mono. It's all in the low end with the kick and the snare. So I can just see in the snare there's a bit of width at the top, so I'm going to listen to that and look on this. Around 10k, there's probably a little bit of phasing going on with the snare. So what I'm going to do is just put in here, I'm just going to put in one of these. There we go. And then just make sure, if I go to here, just make sure it's in side mode, and then that'll only EQ the sides with it being a mid-side EQ. And I'll just move this down and just make sure it's not going to be phasing in that area where the red is going over the green. Like that there. And see, by audio I probably wouldn't have heard that, but by visual that was you know, it's really good. It's little things like that these visual plugins that come into their own, you know, when you're really trying to get a mix, because the more correlation problems and phasing problems you get, the less volume you get, so it's quite important with that. Right, so bass, and then we've got the drums. So the bass, what I would do after the compressor is depending on what it needs. Sometimes some bass lines need a lot more low end. Some people that like don't put enough like sort of sub, or they don't have any undertones on the fundamental frequency. They only have it like say that it'll be quite a mid sound, or the same with the kick. Plugin that I'd use often is in here. It's called Voice of God. Here by UAD Little Labs Voice of God. It's just a little plugin. There's not many buttons or knobs on it, but it's really good. So I'll just show you, for example, if the track didn't have enough bass, you've got your amplitude there, which is your volume, and then you've got your frequency there, which, and you can really fine tune in the bass. So if I needed more low end in this, say, I'd use this, and I'd go like this. I'll do it extreme so you hear it, so you can hear what it's doing. And then if I turn that off, I mean, it's a lot woollier, it's a lot rounder. It's probably adding too much, but it was just an extreme example. But that's great. That's great on kicks. It's similar to Low Air by Waves. It's similar to the BX sub filter. That's got a similar sort of thing, but they've got a lot more control, where you can really sort of dial in the frequencies, and you can see visually. It's good and it's bad that this doesn't have a visualizer on it, because you've got to do it by ear, and sometimes that's better because you get the feel, especially the low end, the feel of it. So one thing I'm going to do after that is go to the FabFilter Pro MB. So what I like to do is push too much. So I like to push a little bit too much with the low end, but then I like to dial it back in. There's a setting in here which I actually learnt this from a YouTube video from the guy called Streaky. You've probably seen him for his reviews, but he did a video on this, and he said there's a great setting in here called, in the mastering setting, and it's the Tight-O-Low ZWD or ZWD, whatever you want to call it. Whoever that is, shout out to you, credit to you, because this is cool. So yeah, so there's already a built-in band here, the first band on the low end, and what this does is this will get all the frequencies at the very low end. If you've got small monitors or you're using headphones, you might not necessarily hear this, but this is the frequencies that really sort of shake the room. So this is the ones that make things rattle at the low end, and things fall off shelves and this, that, the other. So yeah, so if you move the crossover point, you can move this right down to 60, and you can move the slope by clicking it and going up and down. What I've found over, it's really good if you're going to use it on other areas that if it's a lot higher slope like that, if the slope's a lot steeper, the octaves, 48 dB an octave, because it's good for like percussion or things that are probably higher up. But for subs, you really want to shape it so it's not as much, because you don't want it to like sort of have that sound where you're hearing the ducking. So I would just probably put it around here, and then there's a gain boost on it. So as it's not down or up, it's correcting itself for the center. So if I'd show you this, so we've extremely boosted it with this here, and then we've got this on top. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the attack, because I can see it's a little slow, and also the look head needs to be about 5 milliseconds just to sort of see ahead that it's going to do its job properly. Making sure the band release is quite fast, and the range is you can either pull that up and down, or you can pull that, but I tend to just leave it and dial that in after. Right, and then after that, what I would do is I would probably compress it, but what I want to do is show you the sound of without any of the plugins on. I'll just remove that one because that's not in use. So if I go, so you can really hear that it's brought a lot out. It's brought quite a lot of the lows. It might be too much, but we can find that out, you know, when we're doing the mix. Let's see what it sounds like in the mix with the kick and the snare. So see, so you can hear it's really sort of boomy, and it's probably too much, so I'll just bring this down a bit. It's a lot tighter. Another thing you can do is you could, like I showed you in the kick and the bass earlier, you could change the external sidechain in this. So if I wanted it to only affect when the kick drum was coming in, I select kicks in the sidechain there, and then this will only duck when there's a kick or a snare. And I guess that works really well because you only want it to be there, present, when those aren't in. So yeah, we'll leave that as it is, and we'll probably put on, after that I would then probably compress it again. I would have an EQ to make sure there was no areas poking up. Let me just, that was a very technical term, areas poking up. What I mean is there's no, here we go, there's no unwanted frequencies or crazy uncontrollable ones in here. One thing I've noticed about mixing bass frequencies is I always try and ensure that the fundamental, the first is always a similar level to the harmonics or the overtones, because if you've got all the overtones that are louder than the bass, you'll struggle to get the weight out of it. So I always find if I had a problem with this 140 here, what I'd probably do is I would make a dynamic. So by hovering over the waveform when it's playing, if you've got the analyzer on, if you go down to here and ensure that that's on there, this will bring up on your Pro Q3. It brings up the waveform and it holds, it freezes, which is really good, especially if you've got like a busy, like you might have a vocal and in one point through it you'll see a spike, but you won't actually hear it through the track. So this is really good. So you just grab one of those nodes, bring it down a little bit, and then it places it in there, and then you can make it into a dynamic one. So what I would do on that is just probably, say for example, if that did go higher, I'd just have it bringing it down like 1 or 2 dB, not even a lot, and then just to control it. Because otherwise what's going to happen is that 140 is really going to mess with your compression and your mastering at the end. So if that's hitting 3 dB higher than the other ones, they're not going to be able to get up there. So that's just something to bear in mind if you've got if you've got quite a few bass lines going on and they've got a lot of like higher frequencies. So yeah, so I'd put another compressor on that, and this time I wouldn't have it the same settings. I would only have it marginal. So this is just a small compression on this. You might be thinking, like I used to think when I saw videos, I used to think, well, that's not doing anything. But it's all these tiny fractions that really help, all these little small increments. You know, when I first started producing it, I used to move dials around and go, this doesn't do much. And then when it slammed it in, I was thinking, well, that sounds rubbish. It's too much, or I'm not putting that plugin on. But over time, as you realise that all these small things all add up, so it's all the detail parts that really, if you really hone in on these, this is where you get you can get your sort of really laminated, polished sound. So that's what I would do there. Then after that, I would probably put a limiter on, depending, I mean, sometimes it might need a bit of character. I'd probably put like something like the Shadow Hills on to give it that characteristics. Or there's so many plugins. I mean, even even the Logic ones, some of the Logic distortions and everything else, and those are really good for that. Even the multi effects. If you've not looked at some of these are really cool. They've got like I've got all these different various areas in here where like your distortion, your mod effects, and you just turn them all off, on or off. It's a multi effect. So, and then you've got down here where you can put them in the order you want them. So you could have like the compressor first, and then after you could have soft saturation or bit crusher and things like that. So like if I turn the distortion on, you can see them open up here. So if I wanted to put more distortion on, then you can select your distortion here, similar to sort of like Saturn or Isotope Trash or Output Thermal. They all sort of do the same sort of thing, and by putting saturation on, you can increase the perceived loudness. So let me just see if I can put some on this and see what it sounds like. Just to I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put it before the compressor though, just so that I can actually I'll put it in between there, the compressor and the Pro Q3. So on the Pro Q3 we can see what it's doing to the waveform. Let's open that up. It's got a soft limiter on there, so it's a really useful tool if you're working in Logic. This is for a lot of things. You can get a lot out of it just for an individual. And you've got your X and Y, so you can choose like you can do it like a Chaos pad, like the old Korg things. Is it Korg or Akai? I can't remember. But yeah, Chaos pads. But yeah, and then you've got three distortion areas here, so I'm just going to mess around with these and see if it changes the harmonics in the waveform. So again, you can change the harmonics by doing that. I mean, it wasn't very visual on that for me. It's probably because it's so low down, the fundamentals so low down that the harmonics aren't as high. It'd be great to sort of parallel this, and if you were to put like a filter before, so you filtered out the lower ones and then you could just make the higher ones. I would have to try and do it. I've not. Let me see if I can do it. So like put in on a high bass maybe. So you can see it really brings out like the top end, and then you could EQ it and bring, push more out of it, so you can get that thing. But if you noticed, you could hear the like the saturation and the emulation of the old sort of distortion. I was having a look to see what they are. So you've got like tube, scream, vari drive, and I presume that all these will add a lot of color. So if I was, whoa. Yeah, like, sorry about that. So yeah, you can have some real fun, but again, when you're mixing and mastering, you don't want to get into too much of that because you're going to change the characteristics of the track. It's just good to know if you might get a client, or you might want to think, oh, I need some more presence, because on smaller systems the bass line won't come through enough. It's not audible. You can feel it in the subs. Your subs are working, your speakers are working, the room's shaking, but it's not there. So that's how I'd look at that and just treat it. And if someone did say I can't hear the bass a bit, I'd say, oh well, how do you feel about me trying this and seeing, giving them an opportunity to listen to it and things like that. So yeah, next is the drums. After that compressor, I'll go back. I would just put a limiter on just to make sure it doesn't go over the limit at the end, but I would do that at the end. So just wanted to let you know these videos are absolutely free. It's a 5-hour tutorial series, and that was one of the parts. So thanks for watching. If you would like to join the journey, subscribe. I've also got a playlist where I travel the world, and I also document it. I do vlogs, and the weird and wonderful world of a touring artist, the highs and lows and everything like that. So if you want to see that as well, I'll put a link below. But also the educational stuff, the mixing and mastering services are also in the description below. Thanks again for watching. Your subscription means a lot to me, and keep creative, keep making the tunes, keep, pushing on, support each other. Much love. GAWP out.